Okay, so the second half of the week 6 instructional video includes the different activities that you'll have this week. First, go through modules 12 and 13, then also read the Alexander and Fisher article from 2003. The fifth online post will be in reference to the Alexander and Fisher article. I'd like you to identify a unique behavior that's stereotypically different for men and women. So it doesn't actually have to be different, but it can be, but something that's stereotypically different, something that people think is different for men and women. And as I mentioned, it should be a unique behavior, so you want to check out everybody else's posts to make sure that yours is different and to see the number of stereotypically different behaviors. So describe the stereotypical difference if you think that men or women are more likely to display the behavior. And Alexander and Fisher described 3 different conditions or 3 different scenarios. So for each of those 3 conditions, how do you think men and women would report the behavior that you described? And go a little bit into detail there. So talk about who do you think would report engaging in it more, and if you think there are real differences in the behavior and why or why not. Quiz 5 covers modules 1 through 13, also covers the articles that you'll have read and the syllabus. And I mentioned the anonymous mid-course assessment survey. That will also be due Sunday at midnight. It'll be worth 1 extra credit point, and this is anonymous, so I created the settings so that all I can see once you've completed it is a green check mark. So it'll show me if you've done it, but it won't show me anything about your particular individual responses. I will actually compile the results, so I will aggregate the results, so no one person's responses can be taken out of there and identified. And I'll give you a summary of your feedback next week. Reflective Writing 3 looks at critical thinking skills. You'll provide your own definition for critical thinking skills, describe why you think they're important, and you'll discuss how you use them. And I'd like you to create an APA formatted table for practice formatting in APA style that displays your change in frequency of use and overall skill level for each semester you've been in college. So each semester that you've been in college will be a column, and the change in the frequency of use, so how frequently you use critical thinking skills, will be 1 row, and another row will be your overall skill level. So now I'll do a quick demonstration to show you how to format an APA table. So I mentioned you'll have 1 column for each semester you've been in college, and you will have 2 rows. We'll also have title rows for each of those. So let's go to Insert, and then click on Table. So let's say you are a sophomore, and this is the spring, so this is your 2nd semester. So you've been in college for 4 semesters total. You want to have a column for labels for the rows. So we'll have 1 column plus 1st semester, 1st year, 2nd semester, 1st year, 1st semester, sophomore, 2nd semester, sophomore. So we'll start with this. So I mentioned frequency of use and critical thinking skills. So as with everything APA style, we want to format it, go back to the Home tab, and then format it in Times New Roman, size 12. And it will also be double-spaced, just like everything else in your APA style paper. All of the columns that are not this first column will be centered. So you'll center those. And you'll notice here, this row I have formatted a little bit differently from this row. So here you can see this is a capital T, capital S, but this is not capitalized. So what I'd like you to do is to go to the Purdue OWL and see if you can find, or your APA manual, if you have one, and see if you can find which of these is correct. So you can use whatever metric you would like for each of these. So let's say frequency of use, maybe in your first semester you used it weekly, second semester 3 times per week, third semester daily, fourth semester daily. So whatever metric makes sense to you. If you like to create a note, just like we had with the figure, you can create one here also. So rather than using words, if you'd like to use a numeric scale, you can. So frequency you can create your own numerical scale, and in APA, any of the words that describe the scale that go in the parentheses will be italicized. And of course, changing everything to Times New Roman size 12. So here you might say this is 2, 3, 4, 4. So that might represent the frequency with which you use critical thinking skills. Another thing that you want to do for APA tables is to remove these outlines that Word automatically gives you. They are helpful, but we're just going to use them as a guide. So here I'm clicking on this button here that's just to the left of the formatting, and you'll go no border. Then if you highlight this first row, so you can do it either by clicking over to the side, you'll see the arrow actually changes direction, points to the right instead of to the left, or you can just highlight across all of them. Either way is the same. Gives you the same result. So you'll select the bottom border and the top border, and then you'll select the bottom row either by clicking on the left or by clicking and dragging to the right to highlight everything, and then you'll use the bottom border. So you can see there's no vertical lines here in APA formatted tables. And everything is double spaced. You might want to change the formatting a little bit so that it doesn't run onto 2 lines. So you can play around with the formatting, see what works for you, see what your preference is. There are a couple tricks that you can use. So I'm doing things kind of quickly. You notice I do have the ruler showing on the top here. Each of the vertical lines in between the columns are represented with this sort of excessive hashtag type symbol. So if you need to, you can click in one of the columns and then you can drag that to make it larger or smaller. One trick that I like is if you drag over all of them, go to Table Layout. This button here, which is to the right of the column width, is the Distribute Columns button, which will make all of them the same width, which is handy. Looks nicer that way. So this is roughly how you would make an APA table. You would also want to create what would be a caption if you were building a figure, but since we're doing a table, we're actually going to have the title on top of it. So that's the difference between figures and tables, as I mentioned. Figures have a caption at the bottom, tables have a title at the top. I'm going to move this so that we have a line at the top, and then I will say table 1. So just like with figures, where you name them figure 1, figure 2, figure 3, you'll have table 1, table 2, table 3 if you have multiple tables. And the difference between, one of the differences between tables and figures is the table title will go on 2 different rows. So you'll say table 1, and then on the next row, you'll say whatever the name for your table is. Whatever makes sense to you. You'll notice all the important words here are capitalized, so 4 is not capitalized because it's not an important word, but everything else is capitalized. You will also want to italicize title, but not table 1. So that's the reverse of figure formatting, where figure 1 would be italicized and the title would not be. Then just to make sure, I'm going to highlight everything, double space everything, and then down here, what I mentioned, you want to remove the space after the paragraph. So you can see what happens when it's not changed and when it is changed. So you can see this is the true double spacing. If you have the double space or the space after the paragraph, it makes it look like it's triple spaced. It's excessive. So that is how you format a table for APA formatting. I will save this as sort of a template that you can feel free to mess around with and incorporate into your assignment if you would like. Something that isn't due this next week, but I would encourage you to start working on, is your proposal outline for your group projects. This is something that will probably take you more than a week to work on, especially if you are going to be working on setting up some kind of a meeting with your group members. I'm sure you have busy schedules, so it'll be, for some groups, a challenge to find time to meet. So starting early is always a great idea. Here I've pasted the grading rubric for the outline. You can see there's basically a point for each of these different activities that are part of the assignment. So you want to make sure that you include all APA styles, or APA style sections, so the title page, abstract, introduction, method, expected results and discussion, and references pages. And those are all in the template that I have posted for the APA style paper. And just like with the references page that you created, I would encourage you to use that template. It has built-in formatting, so you don't have to worry about some of those things that can be tricky, like formatting headers, which are kind of a pain if you try to do from scratch. What I would encourage you to do is to develop your outline as much as possible. So once you have kind of a rough idea of the logical progression of ideas from the literature review to what your hypothesis is, I would encourage you to flesh that out. So actually write it out in sentence form as much as you can. I'll be able to give you much better feedback if I have more content, more context for what your study is about. And on the left there, I've listed some resources for formatting tips. As I mentioned, the APA style paper template has a lot of the formatting built in, so I would encourage you to use that. You can also Google Purdue OWL, or if you have it bookmarked on your computer or your laptop, that's a great resource for formatting tips. And obviously the APA manual, the current edition is the 6th edition, is an excellent resource for formatting. And as always, if you have any questions about formatting, if anything isn't clear, or if you're wondering about some of the more nitty-gritty details in APA style, feel free to email me. I'd be happy to give you some guidance. So we've started Section 3, Social Influence, which is a lot of fun, in my opinion. It's one of my favorites also. And I went over the different activities for week 6. So you'll read modules 12 and 13 and the Alexander and Fisher article. You'll write online post number 5, take quiz 5, and the anonymous mid-course assessment survey, and submit reflective writing 3 by Sunday at midnight. And I would encourage you to start working on the proposal outline for your group projects to get a head start. These things, as we know from the planning fallacy, always take longer than we think they will. So have fun with the activities from this week, and let me know if you have any questions, concerns, or just general life questions like the purpose of life. Anything that you want to know, I'd be happy to answer.